Okay, so welcome to Rider F, the appraisal contingency to the FARBAR contract. Okay, this is one, read down here, we strongly recommend you use this appraisal contingency on all deals in which you wish to protect the buyer. The exception, I guess, would be in a multiple offer scenario where using this you think may cause your buyer's offer to appear unappealing to the seller. Then you may not want to do this, but most of the time, you want to do it. Now, most people would say, why don't we just if we're using financing and we're getting an appraisal, why wouldn't we just let the fact that if the appraisal doesn't come in, that they can't get financing? I cover that in the financing clause of the contract class, but the reality is just because it doesn't appraise for the full value does not mean that the lender will not lend. They may see that the buyer has plenty of funds disposable to them to make up the difference and still say, we'll approve a loan. We just won't approve a loan for the full amount because we're only going to loan based upon the appraised value, not the purchase price, but we're still willing to lend. So there would be some people that would push back and say, hey, well, that's not a denial. Basically, you're able to get financing, so you can't use that as an out. Whereas if you have the appraisal contingency, there is no question in there that it would be done. Once again, this would be presented at the time of offer from the buyer, and it's basically saying that the property must appraise on or before a certain date, so you don't want it forever. And if you notice here, if you leave it blank, it defaults to 10 days, not from the execution, but 10 days prior to closing, stating that the appraised value of property is at least, again, a dollar amount here, or if left blank, then it would revert to the purchase price. So that's all kind of standard stuff. If the appraisal states that the appraised value is less than the above, then basically the buyer shall deliver a copy. There are certain things a buyer has to do. You get the copy of the appraisal. You deliver a copy of the appraisal to the seller within 3 days after the above date. Okay, and that's not necessarily the date you receive it, but the date that you put in here that it has to be done by. And deliver a written notice to the seller. Either you're going to have two options here. A, terminate the contract and receive a refund of the deposit and move on, or you're willing to waive and remove the contingency and continue with the contract without regard to the appraised value. However, except as provided in paragraph 8B means you still have your financing clause. Now, here's the issue with that. A third option that's not stated here that really is there too is you could also renegotiate the deal. Let's say purchase price of $200,000, you have the appraisal contingency, comes in at $190,000. Seller says, no way, I'm not going to sell it for $190,000. Buyer says, well, I'm willing to come up with an extra $5,000 off the purchase price, or you're out of pocket. So let's go with $195,000, and I'll pay the extra money. So basically, meaning you met halfway, if you will, right? So that's a third option as well. Note here, though, if the buyer fails to timely obtain an appraisal, so they didn't meet this deadline date up here, or to fail to deliver written notice within the 3 days, even if they did receive it within these 3 days after the end of this date, then this rider is essentially, this contingent shall be waived and removed, and buyer shall continue on the contract. All right, so just make sure you meet those dates if you're going to use it. Again, pretty straightforward appraisal contingency. Highly recommended you use it on all deals where you represent the buyer. All right, thanks guys. Have a great day.